6:30, and I would like to call this special meeting of the Gilmer County Board of Education to order. And I will lead us in the pledge at this time.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will take roll at this time. Norma Hurley.
Present.
Misty Pritt.
Here.
Carl Armour.
Here.
Tom Ratliff.
Here.
All here and accounted for. The purpose of this meeting is to approve levy rates and at least to have them presented to us with approval at a later date. And at this time, I'll open up the floor for any questions or discussion concerning the proposed rates. I think they're pretty well outlined in the material that we were given. But
I have a question for Mrs. Brown.
do we need a motion and a second? I'd like to have a motion for discussion. If you so move, Norma?
I'll move to.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion of the proposed levy rates?
I'll jump in. My question was for Mrs. Brown. I didn't have time to search the last certificate evaluation, Kendra. How's the assessed value looking compared to prior year?
The assessor said it went up by about $2 million on the
What did he
Class
say? Did he
3.
say that was public utility or?
I think that it was class 3, I'm not sure.
Okay, so public utilities in there. Okay. So how does that improve us for this year compared to last? Do you know what the numbers were by any chance?
No, I don't have them right here with me, but
Okay.
it did go up.
I can look at, so we're projecting 2.9 million essentially, rounding that off.
Yes, the almost $2 million in general current and the $965,000 in excess levy.
Right.
Any other questions? Well, all those in favor of the motion to approve the rates as presented at this time signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it. At this point, the board meeting, we will recess our meeting until April 21st, 2015 at 8 a.m. Communications to order. Norma Hurley,
Present.
Misty Pritt,
Here.
Carl Armour,
Here.
Tom Ratliff,
Here.
all here and accounted for. Tom, would you care to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I just mentioned.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will have delegations, and I would like to remind those who will speak as a delegation that we would hope you would confine your comments 3 to 5 minutes. Rick Kinder.
I'll give her a try then. I hear a lot of things being said about computers in the classroom, and I'm just here to verify what I know. I've been teaching here 33 years. When I started, you had to have 2 math credits, general math and consumer math, and you could graduate with those credits. Now you have to have 4 years in math 1, algebra 1, that's about the least you can get by with. Beginning this year, I was really excited because when I went to the room over there and they started doing our education, they said, guess what? Every student's going to get 2013 Microsoft Office, going to get 5 copies of it, and they're all going to have an email account. And I thought, wow, because Office 2013 costs like, I looked it up, it's about $100 plus $10 a month roughly. It's $99.99, they just took the penny off of it. So the first thing I did when I got in my math class, I taught kids how to get on the 365 account, because this is something that the state's purchased for us, and it's really great for the students. We have a server here. Well, we've always had trouble with the server. Well, if you have 365 account, you don't have that problem because you don't even have to worry about getting on the server. You can get on any computer, anywhere, and what is nice about it is we're working at home, and as we're working, it's almost time for the bell and someone says, I'm not even done. I'm halfway in, I'm in the middle of the sentence. So that's okay. Shut her down. They can go home and they can pick that right back up and it'll be in the middle of that sentence. So our server, we don't have to worry about, and we've always had problems, and that way the kids don't have to go home and then say, well, I can't work on it until I come back and work on the server. So the 365 accounts has probably been one of the greatest things that the state, I think, has done for us. In my class, we do daily journals where each student explains in detail what they've learned and how and why it works. We do research on new topics. Today we made an Excel sheet in real life about real life exponential problem, and the kids did it by hand. They did it on the calculator. They did it on the computer, and that even reinforces their learning, plus it helps them understand and see how things are working together. I asked about, and I just brought you a few things to show you real quick. This right here is just one that somebody did by hand, and then I have lots of just Excel sheets. I always try and do real life things in my classroom, and this one is like on insurance, and I just run this sheet off to show you. They have to know formulas, and like we have to take the calculator, and they have to understand it's a quadratic function, put that in there, but they can take a sheet and take nothing and make a whole Excel sheet and tell you what your insurance would be. So it's really neat. Here's one that, you know, again, trying to incorporate everyday things into things. This is a check register, so kids learn how to do that in Excel. Work closely with Mrs. Chapman, and because she teaches computer science. So again, there's overlapping. There's just an invoice. There's a grade book. There's formulas for a grade book. Here's like a nice graph that they made. And that's one thing at colleges and stuff and outside the workforce is looking for are good qualities of papers, and you know, that compared to one that you do by hand, to me there's no comparison, and I think that's what the workforce wants. I went on the state website, and WVDE says the West Virginia Next Generation Standards focus on developing real-world skills students need to be successful in today's workplace. And you've got to know something about computers. I mean, if you don't know that, you're in trouble. And, you know, what we have to do sometimes, I think there's jobs out there right now that we are preparing our students for that aren't even in existence. So we have to teach them how to learn. You have to know how to learn how to learn. And I just got off the phone today talking to John Powell, who is on Renaissance Learning, which is our STAR testing. And we were talking about that, and I told him, I said, well, we're supposed to get computers for our classroom. And I said, if we get that in our math, then we can be able to put these kids, because we have kids that are at all different levels. Renaissance Math will let you go in there and look at, like if if I'm at a low level, it will put me on the low level to help me bring me up. If I'm on a high level, it will start me there and take me to the next step. So it's gonna do all these things, but the way it is right now, we can't do that. We only have so many computers, and they're usually in my room. Last week, we didn't get them because another teacher had them. But, so today we worked on journals and stuff. But that's a problem that we have. And then policy 2520.14, that talks about 21st learning skills and technology tools, grades 9 through 12. And these are not in addition to teaching math. These are also things that every teacher has to teach. And I'm going to just read just a couple of sentences for you. The student continues to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills and uses technology tools to solve problems and make decisions related to the classroom, community, and world issues. The high school student will integrate advanced technology, application skills in the use of the word processor, database, spreadsheet, and presentation software, which all those pretty much are on computer, where you have to, word processing. I was unfortunate, and when I went to school, I did not learn to type. I wanted to take the typing class, and I really just wanted to learn to type, and they said no, said if you take it, you have to take it for credits. I said, well, I'm not taking it, because I was a real slow typer, and really didn't want to mess the GPA up, is what happened.
Let's slide to that decision.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm sure you've read 2520. Can I teach without computers? Sure. I've done it in the past. Would I be doing my job? Not now. Back then, maybe I would. Not now. I need the computers in my classroom to be an effective teacher. The students need computers in the classroom to be effective students and to become productive citizens. The superintendent, the board members, administrators, teachers, students, they need technology to prepare them for life. And if you have any questions, I'll answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Michelle Raines.
Nice to meet you all. I was hired this year to teach English Language Arts 7. I did bring a little bit of data for you, and I could stand here and throw charts at you all day. It's not really about charts and graphs, it's about our kids. I want to thank you for considering providing our kids with computers. A quote that really jumped out at me was, acceptance of diversity requires a beginner's mindset, open, curious, and free of prejudice. Kids today aren't like the learners that we had in the past. As Rick noted, our 21st century next generation content standards demand that we have technology integration in every subject area in black and white. Also, as he noted, the West Virginia Department of Ed has already provided the Office 365 software to every child in the state of West Virginia. Every single one of our 7th graders has been working on that all year. They've learned how to create products together on the cloud, how to collaborate, how to compose things. They've been making their own videos, they've been doing research papers, they're doing family heritage research. We also have our STAR testing. Recently, we acquired the ability within our STAR testing, according to each individual child's deficits and needs, it will assign them some remediation, and it will allow for personalized, individualized instruction, and it does that without breaking confidentiality. And also, the more technology we have, the easier it is for us to communicate with the kids and their families. Recently, we had all these snow days and flood days. I already had my kids set up on an online learning management system. I have kids who are doing their work at home because they wanted to make sure that we could stay up on things. Altogether, I have kids that have turned in about 12 different assignments on there in the last 3 weeks, and that's pretty good considering how little school we've had. Also, it allows me to communicate with them in real time. Professional development regarding implementation of one-to-one has already been initiated during our vertical team meetings at the county level, and we also implement that at our PLC meetings at the local middle school level. We've got strategies, methods, and resources that are being shared by teachers and experts, and we're going to continue sharing strategies among our professional learning network. Currently, I'm enrolled in a Master's of Ed program for digital learning, new literacies, and technology integration, and I'm committed to making sure that we have all the professional development that we need to make sure that we can do what's right for the kid. Our mission statement says that we are educating for the future, training for a career, and developing a community. Considering that data went digital decades ago, students should be afforded the opportunity to experience working with data in the digital format. Communication, collaboration, and critical thinking are hallmark 21st century skills. Students in surrounding counties and surrounding states are already receiving benefits of one-to-one implementation with computers. And our students would not be able to join the broader economy if they don't have the same skill sets as their counterparts. We can't be a 21st century school if we're still mired in the methods and materials of the 20th century. Use of our online management systems and electronic curriculum also provides savings on toner, paper, and time. Additionally, the mandated end-of-the-year testing this year is set with the expectation that we have the building capacity with computers already here that we could have our students being tested without the other students being deprived of use of technology in the classroom. Currently, we're at a deficit. Having computers in our classrooms will address this issue and alleviate it. We have an incredible moment of opportunity right now to create an innovative, engaged, active learning environment. And I feel like our students deserve our best.
All right, Dave Ramazan.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for the board, and they're related to a bit that was placed in the paper about computers. I have to wear two different hats. In one hat, I asked multiple times to receive the bid so I can publish it, and the reason for that was because people asked for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known because I don't buy paper. Okay, so I was not given the bid, and I kept asking until the day that he ran out at 1 o'clock. I was told at 3:50 that it's not important because it ran out at 1 o'clock. The bid closed at 1 o'clock. So that's one question. I want to know why. The second question is, I'm a local tech provider. You know, my son is. Why did he know about it? Not know about it? That's the only two questions I have from the board.
Okay, Kim Bond.
Hello, everybody. I just had a couple of really quick questions. One thing is that teachers are kind of wondering if we are going to apply for the waiver for the, because there was a state of emergency to get we could get up to 2 days off of our days we have to make up at the end of the school year, or whenever we're gonna make them up. I'm not sure about that yet. And so I was just wondering that the deadline for that, I guess, is April 1st, and I wondered if, or we wondered if there was any thoughts of doing that. And the other thing is that if we're going to continue going throughout the middle of June, per se, we've already worked off June the 9th for parent-teacher conferences. That's a day that we work off. And so I was wondering if we're going to, how we're going to handle that. Otherwise, teachers will be working 201 days to, and, you know, for the students to get 180, teachers will be working 201. So we will be over on days. So that's all. I just kind of wanted to get a feel for that. And you may address that today, Mr. DeWarner. I'm not sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda, consent agenda, new business. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Now, any discussion on any of the items under consent agenda and new business? The floor is open for discussion.
Mr. President, I had a couple or three questions, but just for my information mainly. And somewhere in here, I'm not gonna take the time to dig it out. There's reference to debt servicing, a sizable amount of money for debt servicing. And it's not clear to me what debt that's for. Was it debt that was taken out after intervention, or was it something that existed before that? I could dig out the specifics here and take me a minute to find it.
When I got your email, you said
Cusack.
CUSAC money. I emailed you back to ask you, is it CUSAC money, or are you talking about contracted services? Or
Well,
purchase lease?
You can give me time and I can dig this out. It's debt servicing, paying on interest and principal.
Okay.
So my question is, what are we paying off? And when did we take that obligation out to the county?
If you find it, I need to know if it's
Sure,
lease purchases, I can explain to you, but we don't have anything with the CUSAC money.
Okay. Well, that's the reason I didn't even use the term. I just wanted to know what it was for and when it was taken out.
Well, let me give you, so you don't have to dig it out, I'll give you the two we have. There's two lease purchases that we had in county. This was done a couple of years ago that the state board approved for you all. One was for the trailers that are over Normantown, which you paid off this January, I think. So you don't have that debt anymore. Your other debt that you're into was the radios for bus drivers, which doesn't come due till 2017. You're still paying on that one.
So how much so that was debt that was taken out after intervention?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was done it was done, I think, when you bought radios a year or so ago for the buses.
If you tell me what the interest rate is, I can figure out how much we owe, but I'll dig this out for you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, discussion?
I only have one point to make, and I see it's kind of addressed later. I'm trying to get this technology inventory. I'd really like to see it. I've asked to have it put on the agenda, and I just can't seem to get it on there. I'd like to see it on there, basically, because I asked to see it on there as a board member. I understand trying to get it done. I've understood that it's been input into Rebus, and I have discussed saying that I'd like to see it by school, particularly Troy, is one of the areas of interest, because when we're closing Troy, it'd be nice to know what we own. But also, before we buy new, and we do have questioning of that coming, I'd like to know what we have, how its age, what's going to be outdated soon, where we stand. So I would ask again, I don't know how far you are in finishing it. I was under the impression it was finished and input in Rebus. Apparently that statement has changed, which is fine. Perhaps I misunderstood, but at least I'd like to see partially how many schools are finished to get started analyzing it and seeing what we actually own. Thank you.
Any other items on any of the agenda items listed? Minutes, financial statements, student transfers?
I found this, and it's not numbered in consecutive order, but on this one table, it said debt, service, principal, interest, budget, $45,709. Year-to-date expenses, $45,709.71. So apparently,
I would say that amount, I think we're talking about the radios that were purchased in 2017.
so that was debt that the county incurred after intervention. Okay, that was what I was driving.
Which should be finished in 2017.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I'd just like to note that under one of the transfers, there is a roll here that has to do with Fund 51 on the county portion of land costs, legal land costs, $1733.50. That's filtered in with the supplements this time under supplements and transfers. So that's Fund 51 there intermingled. So I just wanted to make that note.
Okay.
And I suppose that those would be pulled anyhow and sent to the state, even though they're logged in our records.
other items to discuss?
I have one question on capital projects. I just want to understand, has it been spent, does it remain to be spent? The 983,000 local obligation for the SBA funding, besides the 1 million on the needs assessment that was analyzed by the SBA, the last thing I looked at was $983,000 local share. Now, I realize that it's very possible so much of it was spent before you ever arrived. But I know nowhere to find those numbers that I can get to. I would like to know how much of that obligation has been met, as far as the 983,000 local share that was put in with the 1 million QZAB to be our portion to attain that 11+ million from the SBA.
Let me clarify one more time like I did the last board meeting.
Okay.
You don't have any QZAP money whatsoever right now.
No,
I
sir,
did
not
borrow
right
any
now.
money
But the
whatsoever.
needs assessment was predicated on, the way it was broken out was the SBA's assessment at the time, the most recent one that I saw, was 11 something SBA, 11 mil something, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number, $983,000 local share, and 1 million QZAB. Now, I realize we're iffing on that QZAB. We don't know if we're gonna have to obligate ourselves to that. So there's nothing cast in stone there, But I would like to see some type of record of how much of that 983,000 local share has been spent. And I see nothing. I mean, I'd really like to know where
That
we
was for
stand
the
on that.
Lynn School,
Excuse me, sir?
that's for the Lynn School,
No, that's for the Gilmer County School.
okay.
It's all under Fund 51.
Well, it is, but it's
Because
not
that's the
shown.
one the state board controls.
Well, no, that was the local share that we were obligated to pay.
That's still under Fund 51 that the state board
I
controls.
understand that, sir. But I would, since that's local money, I do feel the citizens should be accounted to for that. And I also realize that probably, a lot of what happened there did not happen. You've only been here X amount of time, I understand that. But I really feel the citizens should know how that stands. And we've got a lot of good information, but what we don't know is what's happened to the status of that. So anyway, that's my question, and I would like to know if at all
Okay.
possible.
Let's get back to the consent agenda, new business. Any other discussion on any of the items listed under item 4? Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. All right, item 5, review and consider revisions of delegation policy attachment 5A. We've had some discussion of this particular item. We do have the Gilmer County Board of Education's policy as part of our agenda. I think that it's pretty clear and self-explanatory. It basically says 3 minutes. We've been saying 3 to 5. But I think it's open for discussion or change if it's your desire.
Mr. President, the policy is stated, it says 3 minutes. Then if you go down that page, down near the bottom, it says we're going to adhere to Robert's Rules of Order. And I brought up in the past that there is a provision in Robert's Rules of Order that under certain circumstances, if someone makes a presentation, we had some excellent presentations today, and they go over 3 minutes. If someone makes a motion and it's seconded, and the majority votes to give more time, then if we say we're gonna follow Robert's Rules and Order, that is a provision. So I'm just asking, are we gonna stick to Robert's Rules and Order strictly? For an example, say that Delegate Boggs would come in, and he'd sign up as a delegation. We wouldn't say, okay, sir, you have to stop after 3 minutes. And probably extend the courtesy to him to use Robert's Rules and Order, maybe give him 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, Dr. Armour, the only thing that I have to go by is our Gilmer County Board of Education policy.
But we say we're going to use Robert's Rules of Order, so should we just take Robert's Rules of Order out, or?
Let me put it this way to you.
Yeah.
It's there in the parliamentary procedure.
Yeah.
That the board should observe the Robert's Rule. Let me find in writing, what exactly is, and if we can do it, then you've got it already done with Robert's.
I'm not
Rule.
even, I'm just saying, we're either gonna stick with Robert's Rules of Orders or we're not. Whatever we say we're gonna do, let's just stick with it.
Well, let me get interpretation,
That's-
exactly what it is, and that way we'll know. And if it's
Fair enough.
okay that way, then we'll okay. If not,
Fair enough.
we'll revise it now.
But it probably should be a very rare thing, if we did use that.
Let me do that and I'll bring it back, April meeting.
That's fair enough.
Okay, do we need to take any action then on this item, and wait, should we wait until April, until we decide definitely?
I'd like to see it tabled until April. I
All
have-
right, we have a motion to that effect.
Second it.
Then, we have a motion and a second to table this item until the April meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, item 6, Masonic Cornerstone, Gilmer County Elementary. We had a presentation at I think at the last board meeting concerning this issue. It is on our agenda for discussion and action. At this time, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President, we all know what's in the OEPA audit report, and we know what has been taken away from this board. Therefore, I would make this motion. Don't act on the Cornerstone request, because the West Virginia Board of Education's intervention in 2011 removed all the board's authority for decisions for new facilities. So if we don't take any action, we're not saying yay or nay, but we're adhering to the restrictions we're working under.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion, but I'd like to say why.
All right, well, we can discuss it now.
Well, basically, the people I spoke to, my constituency, they, we know a lot of Masons out in our area, many of them are very supportive. But because, and they had neither a for or against attitude, it was like, you know, if it's Gilmer County, they're fine with it. You know, if it's not Gilmer County, they're not fine with it, just to put it plain and simple. They wanted Gilmer County Masons to be in charge. However, I do have to agree with Dr. Armour that you kind of come to the wrong place, only because the MOU that was agreed to by our board president with the State Board of Education states specifically that we have no authority to make a decision on a facilities matter. Therefore, to say we're going to attach something to a building, I'm seconding that motion to not handle this because we just simply don't have the authority as a board.
I think the one that was leading Greek, Mr. Blankenship made that decision. We never voted on it one way or another. He was the state appointed. So I think he voted on, I'm not sure if the Lewis County's board took it up or not, since it was Jones School. But I think he went ahead and made that decision.
I asked that question when it came up on the state board, and the state board said it's up to the local board if they want to make that decision to put that cornerstone. That's the answer that I got.
I don't, you know, as one board member, I have no opposition to the Masons laying a cornerstone. But again, I agree with my fellow board members. We really had no say, no decision in any of the involvement with the site. This was done outside of our realm of authority. And I think, Mr. Superintendent, as a representative of the state, I think you and the state board, if you agree that you wanna do it, I'd have no opposition to it at all. But I agree with my fellow board members, we have not had any role in facilities with either the Gilmer County Elementary or Leading Creek Elementary. But again, I have no problem with the cornerstone being placed there. It's just that I'm not sure that it's really proper for us to say, yeah, you go ahead and do it,
Or to say no.
or to say no.
And I would give my support to it.
Mr. President, also if we are going to defer that decision to the state board, there was talk last time that there was contributions from different counties. I would also like to add that if that is the preference of the state board to go ahead and, approve that, then I'd also like them to approve any type of financial obligation that would be attached to that cornerstone, if we so choose to make the donation, which I'm not sure if that's a requirement of the cornerstone, but if they so choose to do that, then they would pass, that would pass through on Fund 51 as a capital project type of thing.
Any other comments, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion before us signify by saying aye.
Point of order, sir, do we need to take what the fellow board member said as an amendment to the motion or a new motion?
I think what they said was clarification of your motion as.
So I'm willing to change my motion to incorporate what she said, if that's,
So
that's-
you
if the
want,
group,
I just don't feel that if we're not voting on it, then we shouldn't approve it through accounts payable.
I agree with
If
her.
we're not making the decision
All
to
right,
add,
then
and
you
I'm
want-
not neither here nor against, but
you
I'm
want to
saying,
restate your motion then, Dr. Armour?
Yeah, and if, I just simply add to what I said, if the state elects to ask for the cornerstone out there, then they should pay for all financial matters related to it. Should not come out of the Board of Education budget.
Now, do I have a second?
that's not what I meant, I
That's
said
not-
it
I
had,
didn't get it?
well, this is what I said though,
Yeah,
is
okay.
if the state board is going to approve it,
Right.
then it would have to run through Fund 51. Now, I don't know how much a cornerstone costs, and I don't know how much, the state would want to contribute, but I just did not want it to come before our board as something that we had to vote to approve when we didn't vote to place it to begin with.
But the state
But it
board
would
could
still
vote,
probably run through Fund 51 costs.
state board
So we
could
still,
vote on
we
it.
wouldn't even have to approve.
No,
Okay,
we
well,
would,
that's fine.
because we don't go, it goes through Fund 51 and we
And
don't
it'd be the
approve Fund
state's
51.
decision to use Fund
Right,
51 money.
it'd be their
That's
decision.
fine.
But the state board could approve it without any financial obligations to this board
Yes,
or
if
to the
that's,
state.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
have
it
to
could
come
be
up with the money.
possible,
Right.
right,
At the,
Yes.
right.
Well, you want to restate that motion again, so we know for sure what we're voting.
Let's ask the secretary to read it back to us.
I don't have it, I got you on tape though.
Ah, And
I
that's
think the
your
whole
duty,
thing-
sir.
With the amendment that you have on there is just that the state board would have to come up with the approval of financing it or have the Masons finance it if the cornerstone is approved by the state board.
Is that what we came up with?
In other words, if a decision, everything is out of our hands, whatever the state decides to do, we're not responsible for it, and we're not gonna be on record and we said yay or nay. It's a state's decision.
This is where we're getting the
Yeah,
blurred
it's a-
lines, whenever you say you can't do facilities, but then you bring up facilities issue. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying that's where the blurred lines comes
Yeah.
in and the communication
We
issues.
can
The only reason I bought
I
it to you is
know.
because I asked the question and
I
they
know.
told me that was our local board's
Yeah.
decision.
I know.
Well, I think
know.
just, in keeping with the conditions of intervention, this board has had no authority on facilities matters, therefore will defer this decision to the State Board of Education and any costs relating to it there to bear.
Yeah, you got
Okay,
it.
do I have a second to that?
I'll second that.
All right, now, are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did Carl
Those
withdraw his
opposed,
motion?
nay.
Did you withdraw your motion? Because we have two motions on the same thing.
I thought he restated my motion.
Clear.
But how about reading the motion back, Mr. Secretary?
I gave up on that motion.
Well, you're the secretary, sir.
I think I can remember, in keeping with the conditions of state intervention, and the fact that this board has no authority over facilities. The decision to lay a cornerstone at the Gilmer County Elementary School is that of the state, and any costs related to it to be borne by the state.
That's the way I understand it.
Okay, so that's the motion. Okay, now that's the motion we voted on. We're all satisfied with our yea votes, any nay votes? Motion passed, Mr.
It's
Superintendent.
just gonna be the state's responsibility for the
State's
cornerstone.
Yes, I think we have no problem with there being a cornerstone. It's just that since we haven't had any say about anything else, it's kind of a change in rules if we say so.
I do want to point out that, after the fact once more, that it is, the folks I've spoken to in Center District, very important to them that they are Gilmer County Masons participating in laying this stone.
Well,
I understand the national comes in,
that it's the state, the Grand Lodge is actually the one that sets the stone.
but the county will be, Masons will be there participating.
And we were involved last time, just no
I
one,
was at
no
Mill
one,
Creek, I was
yeah,
there at
no
that
one showed
dedication.
up from Gilmer
I
County.
was there, at the picture of the dedication.
But the actual ceremony's done by the state, or the
To
Grand.
be honest, what they
Grand
were more
Lodge.
upset about than anything was the fact that the state superintendent participated. So for that reason, they wanted to make very certain he was standing there, yes, with a white apron.
State
Our appointed superintendent for this county.
Well, that's just because he was a Mason.
I understand that, but that is what upset them more than anything, and they just asked, and I told them I would make it, so I
Okay,
belabored it.
let's move on to item 7, superintendent's information action, and Gabe, this is yours.
All right, the 2015 spring break calendar, I told you we can come back and readjust it and everything. What I did, you'll see on the front page there, is I sent out a survey to all of our staff and all the schools, and they voted, and we had 3 options that they wanted to vote on. Again, Ken brought up the idea of a waiver. We hear rumors, we read it in the Clarksburg or Charleston Gazette that there's gonna be, a state board's gonna approve a waiver, and not one superintendent received anything on how to apply for the waiver or anything at this time right now. But we understand that there'll be a waiver, and that we'll be able to apply for it, but we have no idea when the waiver is or how the stipulations are going to happen. One thing I want to clear up, the bill that was coming down in the Senate on the calendar was going to change them from days to minutes, which, and I've got 5 or 6 emails, and it's hard to explain. If you extend the day, all that's given you is bank time or your cure time, and all that can be used is for early outs, late arrivals, or anything of this nature. It cannot make up any instructional days. Those have to be your out-of-calendar days, or they have to be your OS days that you have. We were hoping that that passed, because if we add, say, 5 more minutes to the day, this time next year, if we had this problem right now, we'd have so many days, so many minutes built up that we could use for days to be out. You'll see on the calendar that you have there, it tells you the last day, if they've taken those days off. The one that most votes were, they wanted to compromise with April the 3rd and the 6th as spring break, and use the 7th through 10th as instructional days, and the 10th of last day would be the 15th, which is a Monday. If we get the 2 days waiver, then we're going to be somewhere, just take, 3 days off, that should be somewhere around the 12th. That'll be the last day for the kids. Okay, if all this, if we don't miss any more days, that could happen.
Sir, I just have a question. I have to represent the Career Center. Since so many of our students go to the Career Center, whatever we do, I'm sure you'll recommend the right thing. We've got to make sure that our Career Center students are covered, that they're going to get the proper number of days.
Well, this, and I had some students vote at the high school, and they voted the same way, that they would like to do this too. The Career Center, the gentleman already went to his board to take away spring break. I didn't know anything about it. He did it. Next year's calendar, when we have our last meeting, we're getting a lot of input on that. The way it looks like, we'll look spring break next year, you'll have Good Friday off Monday, and then we're gonna put our OS days after that. So if we don't miss any schools, then they will get a week or whatever the days are. But if we miss days, they know that that's part of spring break is going. okay? And I'm gonna take a calendar tomorrow to our meeting and hand it to the superintendent over and say, this is a calendar. And this is a calendar that we've worked out, with the days with Lewis County, Upshur, and Barber County to be in line with them. So we should do that. But that's the recommendation right now that, it's coming from the, your teachers and service personnel and everything else like that.
I don't have a calendar with me. Good Friday, what day?
It's Friday, this third,
Is it the
Third.
third?
third is
That
Friday.
is Good
and then
Friday.
Good Friday, then the other one's a Monday.
Right.
And those are both out of calendar days, so we preserve those.
That's good. Do we have a motion to approve?
Okay, which one have we approved?
Which one?
You're gonna be approving the last one where it says they compromise using April 3rd to 6th as spring break and using 7th through 12 as, 7th through 10 as instructional days.
We have a motion to approve
I make
that.
a motion to approve, compromising using April 3rd and 6th as spring break and using the April 7th through the 10th and converting those to instructional days. Third
Okay.
option.
I
We have-
second.
Tom, you second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
The next one is B. I'm proposing that the Gilmer County Board of Education approve the purchase of approximately 215 HP touchscreen laptops as indicated in your packet for the Gilmer County High School. Increasing the one-to-one students to computer became a goal number 5 in our strategic plan for the 2014-15. As you know from previous presentations and sessions from our strategic plan. I met with the Gilmer County High School Technology Committee. The High School Technology Committee requested for all 7th and 8th graders to have one-to-one devices. The Technology Committee also indicated a need for providing Gilmer County High School 9 through 12 math teachers one-to-one instructional devices and need to provide the 11th and 12th grade science teacher one-to-one device. In the State Board of Education standards, our classroom teachers are required to teach standards for student technology use within the WVED policy 2520 and .14. You will find standards for the grades 5 through 8 and 9 through 12 that specifically outline objective skills and outcomes for technology applications in all course classroom that cannot be met unless the students have access to devices. It is the right and the responsibility of the superintendent to reach and identify the needs and resources to accomplish shared goals for improving the educational process. I am proposing that the County Board of Education to approve the purchase of approximately 215 HP computers, touchscreen laptops through the state-approved AEPA consortium for Gilmer County High School. The funding has been secured out of Step 7B money, which is directly provided for technology integration within our school districts.
Mr. President, I really appreciate the faculty coming in and speaking to us about this matter.
We need a motion in a second.
I would like to make a motion to cover each child in this county, pre-K through 12. Therefore, if someone could second this, if you give me the opportunity to give my thought process, then everybody here can exchange ideas, we can vote it up and down.
I'll second that.
Therefore, I deny the request because it is unknown that purchasing 200 and some computers from the high school is a top spending priority for improving pre-K through 12 student achievement throughout the county.
Okay, that's the motion. Do we have a second?
What you're going to do, if I'm right for second, is you're going to discuss there being, I misunderstood you earlier, pre-K through 12. The first is
Well, we
9
have-
through 12, or 9
Yeah,
through 12, 11, 12, 7, and 8 motion that we have here.
Yeah, we have an obligation, if you're asking me, to.
Well, I'm asking
and-
you what you're going to second to exactly, Carl. I don't think I understand.
Okay, I would say deny the request because it's unknown that purchasing more computers from the high school is a top spending priority for improving pre-K through 12 student achievement throughout Gilmer County. We're in charge of pre-K education through 12. And if you second that, and allow me to give my reasons, and we can vote it up or down.
I have no problem with, I hesitate to put it in those words.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to be voted, brought forward to the floor to discuss. In some ways, I agree with you, but there's other questions, not necessarily that I want to deny it, but I have questions regarding things that I'd like to
Discuss.
put on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, we do not have a second for Dr. Armour's motion.
I would like to make a motion to discuss this RFP.
All right, then we deny, the motion has failed for lack of a second. Do we have another motion?
I would like to make a motion to discuss the RFP.
All right, do we have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Now, is the RFP, is this a part of the request for purchase of technology?
Yes, sir, it's the request for proposal.
It's not.
Oh, I'm sorry, is it a part of the request for the proposal? No, this is what led up to it, this is what was put, or part of what's being advertised for the equipment, the technology that they want to put in the schools.
Well, that isn't what I see here. Now, you may very well have a very legitimate discussion, but I don't see, this is a request for purchase. This,
Right,
we
well,
vote
this
up or
RFP had
down.
to be advertised before it could be purchased. Which it was,
Sir,
there was
could
an
I-
advertisement for.
What you need to do, Mr. President, you need to make a motion to accept my request to purchase these computers for the high school or deny it and then move on.
All right,
That's
let's
what
have
you need to
a
do.
motion to approve the purchase of the computers as it was presented.
So moved.
You, all right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
If I didn't move, I seconded it.
All right,
we
so
were-
we have a motion and a
Whichever
second.
order.
Okay, now further discussion of this purchase.
Mr. President, now I can say what I intended to say to begin with, if people will bear with me. Okay, after nearly 4 years of intervention with the state and control, we don't know what electronic equipment we had to begin with, what we have now, and where it is, and what condition it's in. And yet we're asked to buy 200 and some more. With school consolidation, we're shutting down 4 grade schools, about 500 students involved, and they have electronic equipment. Could some of that equipment go to the high school? Now, I'm going to have to say some things here that are probably touchy, but I think I have the right to say it because we haven't passed a motion to limit my time. Okay, when we had the OEPA audit in 2011, different specialists from the state were assigned different subjects. Mr. Sterling Bean, who is the head of technology, wrote up what he had to say in the audit report about technology. He didn't have anything to say about the lack of technology. What he did criticize us for was lack of training to use it. Okay, we've had 10 to 15 LSIC meetings. That's linkage meetings with the schools. And all of us had asked questions about, well, what do you really need to do your job better? I don't recall one person stepping forward and saying, we need more computers. I've heard people say things like, we need more early intervention and other things, but I don't, even at the Career Center, LSIC meeting on the 12th, there wasn't anyone who said anything about more computers. Okay, here we are into the 4th year of intervention. We don't know if we're any better off or worse off, where we stand with personnel and curriculum, because we're not given the information. Now, computer technology is certainly related to curriculum. So we aren't given enough information to make decisions, yet we're expected to say, okay, let's buy 200 and some more computers. Now, the strategic plan that the board did not vote on, there's something in it about computers. But, and the people who did that, they did a yeoman work in putting that information together. And they tried to track with the State Board of Education's strategic plan. Okay, one of the things we were told, that's a living document, it's subject to change as new information comes in. And we know very well that what has been in the state's strategic plan hasn't worked. We're down at the bottom in education in the state. The National Association for Education Progress report, I think we call it the NAEP, they came out a week or two ago, and where do we rank? Well, they tested all the high school seniors in the state. Only 18%, and Mason's shaking her head, but I'm quoting from the national report card. Only 18% of the students in West Virginia were proficient or higher in math. Only 28% in reading. Now, the Secretary of, don't call that, Dr. Margarano, whatever his title is, he said that West Virginia got a C, and it was in the Charleston paper that we got a C. And this was quoted in Education Week. I pulled out Education Week, and I read the fine print. Why did we get a C? We got a C because we were number 6 in the nation in spending, so that brought our score up. What did we get in quality of education? Achievement. What did we get in achievement? Does anybody know? We got a D minus. Now, people in Charleston, they don't like to talk about that. So anyway, Mrs. Manchin said at a local recent meeting, she said, we got to do better. We got to do better from pre-K up through 12. And she said it's not going to be an excuse any longer to say thank God for Mississippi. Okay, when the Strategic Planning Committee put together the documentation and it made the various recommendations, they didn't have access to the information that they needed. If the board can't get access to it, I don't think, and this is not a criticism, that they had access to it. For example, they didn't have access to what's on WV Zoom. They didn't have access to the recent ACT scores with the flashed out data. They didn't have access to schooldigger.com. They didn't know about the STAR results. They didn't have information about a comprehensive study of what we need in this county for early intervention. They didn't have accurate information about the percentage of our high school graduates who go on to college and require remediation. They didn't have access to RESA 7's recent audit report. Here's another factor. There's been a change here in the county. We have to think of all of our students. How many in this room know that 50% of our juniors and seniors from the high school go to the Career Center? 50-some% or higher. So whatever we do, we have to think about all the students. And when we look at the work keys tests for the Career Center and see the bad results they're getting and know that it's so bad they have to hire a remedial math teacher that they can't hire yet, but they have hired a teacher in remedial English and reading. That's why I take the stand that we have to be responsible for all children, not just the ones going to high school. There are 400 students in the high school approximately. We have 500 other children we have to think about. Okay, let me go on here. Dr. Martorano, he's a brilliant man. He talked at our recent fall conference, and he likes to talk about his one voice, one vision approach. One leg in that 4-leg column has to do with getting everyone involved in the decision process. So he means pre-K through 12. And he looked out at me. I got up in the front row because I have a hearing problem. And he said the most important thing to have in any county before anything is done, a strategic plan or a plan for early intervention or anything else, is a vision plan. We don't have that vision plan. He said you ought to have the vision plan, and that drives everything else. But so what are we doing here? We don't have a vision plan that should drive the strategic plan, the other plans, and we're asked to solve the problem, buying 215 more computers. Okay, in addition to that, everybody's been keeping up on what goes on in Charleston, and I'm just about done. We know that the state is in chaos. Common Core, we don't know where it's going. We don't know where the next generation or the next round of testing is going. Governor Tomlin said we're starting a new STEM program. We're going to have testing for it. We don't know what we're going to be doing. ACT's Explorer may be dropped. West Test 2 is gone. We don't know what we're going to have to do to meet the state's directives, but we know that we're going to have to go ahead anyway and take care of our pre-K through K children. Now, I'm going to say one more thing. I didn't want to do this, but I will. If you go to West Virginia Zoom and you click on data, and then you look at the different school systems and different schools, here is the information for the Gilmer County High School. And I'm just going to count cite the failure rates for the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade to pass that test. Now, we get graded as a success school, but you can still have maybe 50 or 60% failure who say we're a success because the state has a scoring system that the bar is lowered so low that we can do poorly and be called a success. In the 7th grade, 46% of the students have failed. 8th grade, 33. 9th, 54. 10th grade, 58. 11th, 56. Go to reading. 7th grade, 70% fail. 8th grade, 37% fail. 9th grade, 48. 10, 57. 11, 53. Then we go over to social studies. 8th grade, 40%, 46% don't make it. 10th grade, what do you think it is?
We didn't test
75.
social, we didn't test those social studies.
I'm just citing.
I'm just telling you, we didn't test social
Okay.
studies.
Sir, would you, point of order here, we're not allowed to interface with anyone else. I'm quoting what is on the West Virginia Zoom site. Now, I'd like to finish up here. We had a meeting recently, and we were briefed about the technology in the county. Mr. Hacker from Region 7 was at that meeting, and he said the existing technology in the county was up at the top. He mentioned that we, even Mon County, should be envious of what we have. He did not say we needed more computers. What did he say in response to the question, what's holding us back? You know what it was? What's holding us back? He didn't want to answer the question, and after a pregnant pause, it was said, well, the problem is maybe 50% of our teachers know how to use the technology. So here it is, maybe we ought to be spending the money training the teachers, but no, we're saying buy more computers. And that's all I have to say.
But you got a technology person that's a repair person telling you what these teachers can do in the classroom and what they don't do. Is he?
This is not against the teachers, sir.
No, but I'm saying, you just made a comment that
Sir.
you've got a technician said,
Sir.
you've got a technician said that our teachers do not know how to use computers in the classroom.
Sir,
So
I
he did not observe these teachers.
To begin with, point of order, I think the superintendent's role is to take notes and respond to
Well,
questions.
the superintendent is here, he is the administrator, board members are policy. We
Yeah.
deal with policy.
Yeah.
Superintendent deals with administrative matters, so when it comes to an administrative matter, he does have a right to give information.
If requested. So
Governor, I
that's
agree
why-
with you on many things.
Right.
You are not totally incorrect. Okay, there are many things. Pre-K through 12 is certainly a big issue.
Mhm.
However, let's talk about what we're looking at here. And one question I want to ask the
Right.
superintendent is step 7B money, sir. Is that tool for schools?
Used to be tools for schools, remember they took part of it, you got tools for schools and then put part of it in step
Step
7B
B.
money. for technology
Right,
only.
and will we lose that funding at the end of the year if it is not expended by June 30? Or will that be carried
It can be
over?
carried over, and this is
So, I
when you
mean-
keep saying pre-K to K, the reason we're going to high school this year is because next year's money and the year after that money is gonna go to your middle school, your elementary schools.
Right, well, my,
So that's
my
the
only
money's
point,
gonna
that
be
was
there.
the point, if I can finish, that was the point of asking for the technology inventory. You know, I believe every student does need access to technology. Certainly in today's world, there is no doubt. I know, I was fortunate, and I'm 62 years old. And I was very fortunate to have been exposed at an early age compared to many of these children here, starting with the card punch. Came to our school, now that's how far back it went, you know. And even today at 62, I am not afraid of any piece of technology. Lord knows there's a lot I don't know about a lot of it. You could all teach me a million bazillion things. But having that exposure at such an early age, you know, at that time, I was fortunate and carried through my career. And I know that I could go anywhere, and as long as I had someone that knew how to teach me, I could learn it. And I believe our teachers here, it's the same thing. The students do need exposed. You know, we do need one-on-one. I'm not going to say that's not true. I don't want to see a classroom of students waiting, as someone, I believe it was Mr. Pender might have said, or Mrs. Raines, where they're one is testing, and so you have another large group that does not have access. And I don't think Dr. Armour really wants that either. I think the question just all comes around, you know, what do we have? And is it being, is the wisest decision? Also, you know, to do the high school, perhaps it is, you know, I mean, I really don't know, but I'm not against that. I know that in the strategic plan, we called for a 20% increase this year, and I believe that plan called for the 7th and 8th grade going one-on-one at the meeting I attended. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. Now, the 11th and 12th math teachers in science, I didn't see anything on this RFP that referred to mathematical or scientific keypads on these computers. And I was wondering if that was available for the students, if that could be looked into to see if these can, I know they're laptops, but they're pretty high grade, and I didn't know if the keyboards had the mathematical calculations for math and science on them, you know, as an independent part of the keyboard. Those are nice calculators, and they really are nice learning tools. I would like, if possible, if the superintendent, in talking to the vendors, when he brings us vendors or however he's going to do this, and I haven't heard from him how this is going to be done, I would like to see them consulted about the possibility of that. I'm sure Mr. Pender and others would have some input on the type of computer they may need just in a mathematical or science situation versus the English language arts teacher.
This proposal was discussed with the math, English, and the 7th grade teachers and everything. These are what they recommend to me that they want.
I understand. I see the 15-inch touchscreen with the LED display, the Windows 8. You know, I see that it can go to 10, which is the most recent. So that concerns me just a little bit. I think it's Windows 8.1 actually, and you may want to look at the 10, because I'd hate to see us spend this much money if in fact the board does agree to this, and wind up having to update it the first year. You know. Go ahead.
Are you finished?
Yes, Carl.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just have a point of clarification I'd direct to the superintendent. Although we have no decisions capacity at all about new schools, we've been told that when we have consolidation, the students will have ultra-modern computers, touchscreen TVs, and everything else. And I don't understand why there'd be a need, if they have access to that in a year or two. You made the statement in subsequent years we buy everybody more computers. Aren't they gonna have the computers, all the elementary kids? So who are we talking about buying more computers?
I didn't say about buying any more computers. I
You
said
said in subsequent years we
this
use.
year, they wanted to take care of the high school, take care of the high school kids, and then the next 2 years, that money's gonna have to go to the new school for technology and stuff of that nature.
But I thought the state was going to have a turnkey project and everything was going to be ultra-modern.
That was
There's
back
money
under
that you
another
have to come up with
superintendent, Dr.
on the
Arnold.
local level.
I
Misty?
know, I know that last year, around the end of the year, there was a lot of online testing, and that was nothing short of a nightmare for elementary, high school, all the way around. You know, the capacity was not there to handle that situation. And, you know, that's important, the end of the year testing. You know, whether we believe in standardized testing or not, it's still what we have to do. I mean, there's lots of things that we don't agree with, but, you know, that's gonna be a real struggle with not having that one-to-one in place at the end of the year. But more importantly, to me, is that day-to-day availability of access to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like paper and pencil, I still like books, I still very much believe in that. But when I hear teachers that are in the classroom saying to me, I had to pass, you know, we had to step aside because the availability was not there. Now, what has happened in previous years with computers, purchases that have been made, you know, the utilization of it, that's all gonna have to be probably a topic that we look at, you know, and I think you're in the process of gathering that information. But I just feel that if teachers come and really say to me, I need this to be more effective, and they're the professionals in that line, I really believe that in my heart, I just don't feel that it would be the right thing to do to deny that request. I just feel in my heart that that would not be right for us to act on that behalf. Whether there's other issues that we need to visit on this subject, you know, past practices, utilization, you know, wherever all the different opinions come into play, that might be something for future discussion. But if it's available and you have located the funds and it's federal money and it's step 7 to be utilized for technology, I just feel personally it'd be in our best interest to equip these students.
I
agree with Misty.
yeah.
We have to, I'm not an expert on computers. I have no idea what our teachers up in is teaching. But I recognize 2 presentations that were made here this evening. They were excellent. And both of them said this is what we need. And I think this is what we need to do. You know, now if money becomes available later on for our elementary school, I'm gonna be just as forceful that the elementary
Right.
schools
Absolutely.
get this technology. And if money would become available that we could get up to our career center kids,
Absolutely.
I think they definitely need to get it.
Yeah, and if it can be found before the consolidation, if there is something that's gonna help those teachers, and I'm not in the belief that if there's something that teacher at Normantown or at Glendale needs now to make it better for our students, let's equip them if we can locate the funds to do so. It looks to me like you've just located the funds right now to secure this proposal. But I would encourage, if there's anything out there for those elementary age, like Dr. Armour said, that early phase there is so important if we want to turn around scores in the future. So I am not opposed to a lot of his comments.
Well, I agree. I think the 3rd grade is a key. At the end of the 3rd grade, if a student doesn't have the basics, he's going to be handicapped for the rest of his time in school. I also think the state of West Virginia needs to have a discussion about the relationship between educational technology and traditional teaching methods. When I speak with employers like IBM and other employers, and they say, you know, we can't use graduates because their handwriting isn't legible. We can't read it. Well, you know, there's a balance there. The technology is a great aid. It is not a substitute for a good teacher.
No, it's not.
And we have to keep that in mind. We can spend all the money that we want to on computers and buildings, all that we want to, and if we don't have good teachers in the classrooms, we're not gonna have good schools. I think that now is a good time for having these discussions, because for so long, I've gone to meetings all over the state and things are handed down, well, sure. But I'm hearing now, we're not actually getting the results that we want. What do we need to do better? Well, you gotta combine that human element with the technology. And I think that we're on the verge of having that discussion. I'm listening to Dr. Martirano. I spent an hour with him. He does understand. But understanding and getting the change, they're different prospects. And I think what we're doing here tonight is a good discussion, because we all have different points of view and different understandings of where we are. I would not want to deny a teacher the opportunity to serve students. I volunteered to teach a class in writing, and I was told I couldn't be paid. And I said, well, did I say anything about pay? I just want to show you it can be done, because it can be my way. Now, I know there are other ways, but I think the whole question of how we use educational technology, and some of us are old school. We came out of classrooms with professors, and that's how we learned, that's how we taught. And we know that the time is different, and we're dealing with young people that are coming out of a totally different environment, and maybe headed to a different environment. But all of this has to be discussed and understood. And quite frankly, you know, there are so many statistics out there that I get tired of looking at them. And, I think that we've got an issue here as a board as to whether or not we believe it's in the best interest of our students to have this purchase of these computers. Funds are available, not that we want to waste it just because it's available, but if this is something that the teachers will in fact use, this time next year we can talk to them and see how they've utilized them. That's just my little speech. We've all had a chance to speak, and I guess we need, as Superintendent said, we need to vote it up or down.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion? Already have the motion and the second, and so we've had discussion. All those in favor of approving the request for purchase technology signify by saying aye. Let's have a show of hands. Okay, those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it.
That's good, we had our discussion.
All right, Superintendent?
Back in September, I took time out to tell you as a board that we received a grant for literacy, and Mrs. Nick and some of the teachers in our county have been really working hard on this, and I need for her to give you an update on where it's going. We just received funding that we can hire a literacy coach, which the posting's up now. So we'll have somebody on board that'll work with this grant for a couple of years. Mary Ann?
Let me get situated here. Honestly, I think I'm gonna hit the white halfway if you guys don't see it. Right.
So the elementary, the new elementary school.
I'm not sure that we're at.
You don't wanna have outfitted school and let the whole school
Oh,
outfit.
wrong side. Wrong again. There we go. Third time's a charm. And just in case you guys ever wanna know, it's the middle white. So it's the dark. Figure that one out.
You can go if you want.
Alright. Well, good evening, and thank you all for being willing to listen to what I have to share. I had sent everyone in the Board of Education this PowerPoint in advance so that you would have the information ahead of time. Before I begin and go through and explain everything that I've already given you, do you guys have any questions for me up front about the grant or about the information that I've given? Okay, this is a very exciting opportunity for Gilmer County Schools that we have had presented in front of us. This summer, we were able to apply for a Literacy Innovation and Rural Education through Collaboration grant. And this was an opportunity that Mr. Gilmer brought to the county. So the grant was funded for Gilmer County Schools. And we're very, very lucky because this was a U.S. Department of Education grant, and you can see the list of priorities within the form of the grant and the way it was written. So the priorities that we look at with the grant is turning around persistently low achieving schools. And that would be West Virginia. So that's why the state of West Virginia, that kind of gave us the leeway to actually apply for the grant. Technology is a priority within the grant. And technology meaning virtual collaboration and virtual means of accessing professional learning opportunities and networking with nationally accredited universities, other teaching staffs, other industries, to really engage conversations and dialogue about literacy. Another huge priority with the grant is improving early learning outcomes, and as Dr. Armour, Dr. Simmons, and Mrs. Pritt kind of acknowledge the fact that it's important to look at the whole spectrum. When we're expecting to have high achieving test scores or successful graduates, we don't start by providing support in high school. We start providing support in preschool. And in fact, before preschool, we should be engaging those conversations. And also rural LEAs, that's our rural areas that are providing education to students. So, we're really lucky because out of 13 districts in the United States, one of the districts is actually right here in Gilmer County. So you see that 5 states are included within the partnership. 13 districts, that's 13 districts. That's crazy to think that we are 1 out of 13 selected school districts in the whole United States that actually received this grant. We're very special for that. And you can see that there were actually 2 districts in West Virginia selected, Barber County and Gilmer County. So you can see that, as many of you know, looking at grants and having to have that research and that data to back you, you need kind of a mix of your subgroups to show that the same initiatives work for you, work for you, work for you, and this is kind of the composition that we have. We had a group in Arizona that's at an actually Native American reservation, so that it's a very isolated population of students. In Illinois, that's kind of your suburban Chicago group. We have North Carolina, lots of diversity within this group. Vermont, that's again another isolated population. There actually is not a local library in the Vermont locations that we're partnered with. And then of course West Virginia, Barber County, and Gilmer County. So you can see some of the participants in the grant. Community stakeholders, school and district instructional leaders, all preschool elementary educators, and that includes all of our daycare staff and anyone that would provide in-home care for children birth to 3. So there you go, preschool, daycare teachers, family members of preschool students, preschool and elementary students. The grant is about building capacity so that in 2 years after we enact the process and we establish a supportive group and understanding goals within our community and school and our teachers, that the actual work moves on from the grant. That it's not something that we receive money for 2 years and then we're done. So here are some core components. We have instructional leadership, professional learning, summer lab is included with the funding. There's a community literacy plan piece. Family literacy engagement is huge within the grant focus, and National Innovation Network. One thing I wanted to point out is that huge that the National Council of Teachers of English actually sponsor this grant. The professional development that our teachers will receive for the literacy strategies is actually through the National Council of Teachers of English. It's huge. The Rural and School Community Trust Foundation, that's the group that's a nonprofit organization that actually comes in and builds capacity for communities to take charge of what children are exposed to. Very cool stuff. So, when we look at the goals of the grant, you have to think of 2 big bubbles, and this is kind of how I've wrapped other people's heads around this whole big idea of the grant. We have 2 big components. One component is what we can offer our teachers at the local level with professional learning opportunities. So in our schools right now, we have professional learning communities based on grade bands. So what I've been working with is launching out horizontal teaming with the principals and the elementary staff members so that we have a group of teachers that collaborate that are preschool and kindergarten teachers. We have a first and second grade group of teachers that collaborate, third and fourth, and fifth and sixth. So those are actually our professional learning communities. Within the work of the grant, the National Council of Teachers of English give a benchmark to our teachers within those grade bands in those groups. After we receive that data back, then we design a professional learning plan based on the needs of our teachers. So that if our fifth and sixth grade group says, well, we would like some more writing strategies for cross-curricular work in the classroom, for encouraging science and math work in the classroom, and that's what we will actually provide that group of teachers. And that's through the National Council of Teachers of English, and also the grant funds, the monies for professional development opportunities for our teachers. The second goal is exposing students to high quality instruction and plentiful books. And after our teachers actually took the benchmark assessment, then they signed up with First Book, and it's a nonprofit organization. And once they get the magical email that says you receive $100, then they'll actually be able to go on First Book and shop for books for their classroom. Those books are theirs to keep and use as they need. They're books to instruct with, they're books to use for incentives in the classroom, books to teach with. Increasing student motivation to read, continuous improvement, always looking at the outcomes of the professional development, having those teachers come back and reflect on the practices learned, and then taking a step forward, sharing with others. So within the grant, there are some things that we are looking to accomplish by May. We have given the needs assessment to all of our groups. We have the data back, but we have not came together as a local literacy team because we do not have that missing piece, and that is our literacy coach. That position is a grant-funded position. It was recently posted, and that position will be a 2-year position carrying on the work of this grant. So once that person is hired, then we're going to come together, we're going to look at the data, and then we're going to design our professional learning plan for each of those groups to target literacy strategies that those teachers need. Very quality, high quality professional learning that our teachers will be exposed to. Now initially, the grant was designed to where we would actually have those teachers paid through the grant to work on professional learning opportunities after school hours. But because of having the makeup that we do with teachers not wanting to stay after school because of family obligations, the teaching staff and the principals kind of elected to have the days converted from hours to stay after into full days, so that we're looking at pretty much a summer learning institute for our elementary teachers. We're looking at 3 days where we can pay our elementary teachers and our elementary aides, classroom aides, and encourage our daycare staff to come back and actually receive very high quality professional development, and they get paid for 3 days. And our daycares, they'll get compensated for the workers that actually attend the sessions. It's a beautiful thing that the National Council of Teachers have worked on. So that's kind of where we're at. We need to get the literacy coach in place, and then that person will begin having the conversations in the community and enacting that community piece, and then organizing the professional development for our teams. There's also funding for summer school, which is something that's desperately needed. And from then on, we're looking at learning goals and having community distribution plan. So something that I do want to explain too. So we have this big bubble of professional learning that our teachers are going to have access to, that they have decided, hey, we need this strategy, we would like more professional development in this area, that they have really designed and crafted on their own. And then they look at the data surrounding student achievement, and they move forward with that work. And then we have a community bubble to where we are developing a community literacy plan and drawing in the strengths of our community and looking to see what other organizations outside of the school realm are actually doing literacy initiatives in our community that we don't even know about. We had a really great first meeting with the community groups, and one voice that was heard very well was our librarian. And she said, hey, you know what, the Dolly Parton Express Library, where we provide every child 0 to 5 a book every month, guess what, the reason why we're uncertain is because we actually fund that locally. And you know all the bake sales that you go to and all the raffles for the library? Yeah, that pays for the books that we distribute in those homes every month. And if we didn't have that local support, we wouldn't have it. Do you know how many homeschool parents in that crowd said, I didn't even know that there was a Dolly Parton Express. Where is that sign up? Because I want my kids to have it. You don't know how many people in that room said, wow, that was not funded from outside sources. We fund that. So the community group that we develop among the strong stakeholders that we have in Gilmer County that support learning and support that initiative to embrace literacy even when our kids are not in school, those people will take on the work of the Literacy Action Plan. And one really nice thing to hear is that, guess what, we get money for that too in this grant. So, and it's always nice to have the funding behind it. So when the literacy group comes together and they create this community literacy plan, the grant actually gives money to that group to say, okay, if you feel strongly that you want to carry on the work of the Dolly Parton Library and your community feels like instead of just giving a child a book every month 0 to 5, you want to extend that 0 to 8, that's great. Here's the money for it. If you decide that your community needs a distribution center or several distribution centers so that every time a child goes to the DHHR and gets their well child checkup or round of shots at the health department, they get a book and it's stamped from Gilmer County Community Literacy Plan, that's what you do with it. So you can see where there is actual ownership that we're allowed to take back and really move forward with the work that's in place. Very, very great thing. Okay, Summer Learning Lab will occur for 2 years. It's funded for 2 years. And then, of course, we're on the continuous community literacy action plan looking at community of practice so that we're going to communicate with the folks in Blackwater, Arizona, and we're going to communicate with folks outside of Illinois, and we're going to communicate with the folks in Vermont. We're going to say, hey, how's your literacy plan? What did your community say was important? Oh, guess what? We said that was important too, but what about this idea? So that we're networking and seeing what other locations are doing too. And this is more about the community literacy plan. The folks with Rural School and Community Trust really put a lot of time and effort into thinking how those forums are going to be ran. And this is the information about First Book. Said that lots of nonprofit organizations actually sign up with First Book. So for example, if the community literacy plan says, okay, well, the grant gave each teacher $100 for the elementary level, guess what? We want to take our community money and give each teacher $100 more.
Yeah.
That's what they'll do. So it really is an ownership and capacity building grant. It's a very good thing. One thing I wanted to show you, it was profound for me to work through 2 things on this grant. First, to have the opportunity to actually work with the folks on the national level through National Council of Teachers of English and to see their work and how passionate they were, but also to see that West Virginia is actually doing the same kind of work. So if you go to the State Department of Education website, WVDE, and you go to Leaders of Literacy, you will find that we used to have this policy back in the day, like 6 months ago. You guys know how that is. We used to have this policy that was called critical skills. And in this policy, raise your hand if you know what that means. Whoa. Okay, so in this critical skills policy, which is 2512, I'm going to just read the little chunk below here. It says, campaign for grade level reading is a groundbreaking step in West Virginia Board of Education's journey to meet Governor Earl Ray Tomlin's challenge to assure all students are reading at grade level by the end of the 3rd grade. But here's the catch. Our 2512 used to be focused on 3rd grade and 8th grade and piping monies and invested time and resources to 3rd graders and 8th graders because they said, guess what you can indicate by 3rd grade? Dropout rates, reading proficiency. Guess what you can figure out by 8th grade? Success after high school.
Those who are going to prison.
Those who so it's very true. But guess what? Our state level leaders took a step back and said, you know what? This policy 2512, we know that we need to get there by 3rd and 8th grade, but we have to start earlier. There's no way we can do the work at 3rd and 8th grade and get the results that we want while our kids are in high school. We have to start at a younger age. So if you go to State Department of Education, you can Google campaign for grade level reading, you can look at Leaders for Literacy. Either way, you will get to this page. And then I want you to look at the big chunks of what this new revised policy 2512 is actually looking at. Extended learning, that's summer school or after school tutoring, school readiness, high quality standards based instruction, and attendance. So when, I wanted just to kind of show you the aha that I had as a board, just so that you guys would understand what a gift we've been given with this grant. And when I talked with, last week I talked with Charlotte Webb, she's the coordinator for the Office of Early Learning, specifically with elementary education. She said that Gilmer County schools really have an advantage over other districts because you have funding to enact something that we really don't have the funding for, and that we would like to give every school system. So you can see what it's changed into. Instead of focusing on 3rd grade proficiency reading and 8th grade proficiency reading, this is what 2512 really focuses on now. Comprehensive approach, that's measurement and support of children's trajectories. Emphasizing high school quality readiness efforts. Promoting early childhood school attendance, supports to eliminate summer learning loss. Family engagement, ensuring high quality instruction and learning. So I wanted to share that with you, that the grant really encompasses a lot of what 2512 has encouraged the school systems to ascertain that we don't have funding for otherwise. And one nice piece to the grant is the parent involvement piece. And I can tell you, strictly speaking as a parent, that I have a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old in Gilmer County. And I really feel like we could be doing more with enacting that parent piece before our students ever set foot in the door of our schools. Because there's so many things that even as an educated mother that I'm just learning about as a parent. And I think the more learning opportunities and the more engagement that we have with our parents, the better off we are as a school system. So our literacy coach is also going to be able to provide support to our parents directly, so that that coach can, for example, with print-rich environments in the home, when we have our Burst Start classes, our parents can actually attend sessions while their children are being supervised by paid staff. Then we can actually have parent trainings for specific reasons. So we have a lot of very good attributes to the grant that other systems don't have. Are there any questions?
Here's a question. Are you gonna be able to get the summer school portion of this in line in time? You know, we were gonna try to work it with the Energy Express.
Yeah.
Well, time's flying, you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, and Mr. Devano can give you information specifically if you'd like to on
Energy
summer school.
Express is gonna be starting, I think, the 20th of June, and we're gonna be right in line with them. We only go 3 weeks, and we're trying to talk them into, because if they start up, you're only looking at our students only having like 4 or 5 days home, and then if they end in June or July, you're only talking our students might have a week. We can have, so we're asking them if they would check with their people to see if we can cut it down to 5 to 4 weeks. And I haven't heard anything back from her. I asked her yesterday, a couple days ago when she was at the county office level, that we'd like to have it to 5 to 4 weeks, which also help us get the building clean. Our concern is to
One thing that we've never, well, at least since I've been back in Gilmer County schools, we have not been able to provide transportation for summer school. This grant affords the opportunity to transport our children to and from their homes. But that only affords that for 3 weeks. So we're looking at a compromise of Energy Express and the summer school being a whole day piece. So if children attend summer school, it would be one half of the day, and Energy Express is the other half of the day. So that there's 6 weeks of Energy Express, 3 weeks of summer school, so children stay 1 full day for 3 weeks of that, and then half day for the rest. Yes.
You answered my question.
Okay. Okay.
Triana,
Well,
well, the position, you said it was a 2-year position. Is this a grant that can be renewed after the 2 years? Have they got that far into it?
They have not, and I honestly don't know if there's any kind of funding at the end of this.
2-year
But
period.
it's an excellent opportunity for our students and for our teachers and for our community as well.
Misty, we talked about that too. Within 2 years, we wanna probably look, see if it's a success and maybe find funding for
Yeah,
it.
that's what I had
Right.
hoped, that maybe we could find something closer to the end.
Can I reiterate on the literacy coaching position? Just the fact that this person is, think of it as a literacy coach for our teachers, so they're enacting the strategies in the classroom. They're coaching our children because they can actually do early interventions with our preschool, kindergarten, and first grade students. And it's also a coach for our parents, because that person is going to enact the parent piece and the community piece to tie all of these nice things that we're doing in Gilmer County into a package that we can provide our very young children, so that we're doing exactly what you were mentioning earlier in your presentation, was providing support for our pre-K through 6th grade students at the elementary level.
well, I think this is a wonderful idea, and I think there's nothing wrong with needing special help. You know, I think there are too many parents, I've seen it, they don't want to admit that my child needs help with reading or math or whatever. Well, we're only deluding ourselves and certainly doing our children a disservice if we don't develop programs to give them the tools that they need. Someone gave me some statistics this weekend on the percentage of high school dropouts who wind up in prison. It was almost 80% of them.
That's right.
On guard.
Well, and you know what's really nice also to look at this, how profound the grant matches up with what we are required to do anyway, but that our teachers, our voices of the teachers have been heard, because when I started with the horizontal teaming in Gilmer County, this was before our grant had even started. And when we worked with our first groups of pre-KK 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, all of our teachers said we need literacy strategies. Because no more are we forced to have the 90-minute uninterrupted reading first block of time. Expectations have changed. And so at a local level, we need to know what's important from our teachers. And that's
Sure.
something that we've heard from our teachers. And we actually had one of our in-house teachers have a literacy strategies training based on that teacher need at the elementary level. So our teachers have even voiced that they need some more support with curriculum and literacy strategies.
You know far more than I do. I don't have a background in K through 12 education. When we talk about early intervention, it's going to be more than reading. So as a professional, what could you advise the board that we really should be looking into?
Well, if you look right here under the campaign for grade level reading, you
Right.
can see that emphasizing high quality school readiness efforts.
Right.
What the Office of Early Learning is actually doing to support local boards of education is this, that they're going to streamline data reporting, so that, for example, my son is in birth to 3.
Right.
Before birth to 3 records were inaccessible pretty much. And so that if I was a kindergarten teacher and I received my son in class the first day and he has a speech impediment, I would not know that because I don't have that information as a teacher. So that they're working cross lines to see
Right.
if some of the organizations that provide that support before they actually are in that preschool classroom, that we are making sure that we're advising as to what each individual child's needs are. At the Board of Education level, I think the support for the work throughout this grant is what you can do best. And I would love to see each of you be at the next community meeting so that we could kind of understand what each of your districts are doing that we don't know about. Because that was kind of a revelation for some of the folks to even know the things that we're doing in our own districts, because we kind of have our own pockets even though we are just Gilmer County.
Good.
Any other questions?
Okay, we're
Thank you
down
very much.
to item 8, reports, discussion, follow-up. Dr. Armour, report from Gilmer Calhoun Career Center.
Yeah, and not a lot happened at the last meeting. I'm usually pretty organized. Let me see. It's somewhere, so I'll just have to do it from memory. We had a lady come and talk to us, and I didn't understand it, but the career centers are under a different administrative program than the high school. And this individual talked in depth what we needed to do a better job informing people about opportunities of having careers versus traditional education. And the thing that she identified the most was that, and this is what she said, I don't have any way to evaluate it. She said the biggest impediment, as far as she was concerned, that we didn't have the proper counseling for the children. And there's a tendency to counsel people as if all of them are going to go to college. So she felt as if we needed to do a better job with counseling. Now the thing that really was a revelation to me was the degree of people going to the Career Center. For an example, Gilmer County High School, these are the figures I gave, and if they're wrong, someone correct me. There are 68 students who are high school juniors, 37 of those are attending the Career Center. That's 54%. Seniors, 68 students, 35 are going to the Career Center. So that is really phenomenal, and as an advocate for the center, please do everything you can with your math or whatever to enable those people to be successful. They're starting a new program down there called WIN. And what WIN is about, each person in a career field has to take a test to show proficiency in math and reading and other skills. And if they pass that, they get a certificate. And then when they go to an employer, they're more marketable. So whatever you do with those new computers, if you can integrate reading and math and creative thinking or whatever, you're going to be helping those students down there.
Well, Dr. Armour, one thing that I picked up on at our joint meeting and that struck a note with me is that every teacher at the vocational center is focusing on students learning to read and to write. They're focusing on English.
Yeah.
Reminded me of writing across the curriculum that we did several years ago. But I think it's a wonderful idea, and I made the comment that I'd like to see all of our schools put an emphasis on it, because again, I've got a computer, and it hasn't taught me anything about writing. I learned to write with a pen. But I think whenever you find potential employers saying to a young man, I can't use you because your writing is not legible, and you're going to have to write, you're going to have to read, I can't use you. This is not what we want as a result in our educational program. So I think that was a wonderful idea, and I think what we're going to be doing with the literacy program. Language is our tool. If you're a carpenter, you don't go out without tools to do work. Or if you're a plumber, we have to have our basic tools, whether we're talking about math or social studies or just making small talk. Our language is our tool.
May I say one more thing? They talked about their embeddedness program. And what that is, the people who may be in welding or the medical field down there or criminal justice, somehow they're going to work it out so that they're going to get credit for the normal curriculum that you'd have for people who aren't in Career Center. So Mr. Delano, he knows more about that than I do, and we have a report that we're supposed to complete sometime in April. I'm sure he's on top of it.
We talked about the high school doing embedded credit within a high school and have a county policy for here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they, for instance, they gave an example where Mrs. Blankenship, the nursing teacher, had a selection that she chose. It was based on the disease ALS.
Yeah.
And then Mrs. Evans, who used to teach English here, she's now down at the Career Center, she would pick up the English element. So whenever they got to
a figurative language or, you know, just the structure of sentences, and she would come in and teach the English element, and then they would read along, and then when we got to a nursing term, then Mrs. Blankenship would pick right up, and she said it was just so seamless, and it just makes such good sense to have those embedded credits. It just feels good. I mean, across the curriculum, and she's also working on a piece with construction and some of the other ones, going in there and teaching the English element, so it was really exciting.
It's really picking up 2 credits in one subject
Right,
is really what
2
it amounts to.
subjects.
That's right. Okay, recess 7, we have not had a meeting since our last board meeting. We do have a meeting this Thursday here in Gilmer County, so I'll have a report for that. I will be able to tell you, though, I had a call from Tetrick and Bartlett as a part of the recess 7 audit. I had that call a few days ago, and the auditor had 3 questions. The first was, how would you suggest suspicions of fraud be reported? If you were aware or suspected a case of fraud, where would you report it? And you know, there are all kinds of options for that. You know, normally we go to our supervisor. Whenever an agency deals with state money, the legislative auditor is always a good place. And I basically said, you know, I don't know that there's any hard and fast understanding about where you would go if you suspected that there was fraud going on. You know, the local prosecuting attorney would be one prospect. You could go to the state attorney general. I didn't have a definitive answer other than that I knew when state money's involved, the legislative auditor's office would be a place you could go. The second question had to do with ethics. How do school systems go about teaching the value of ethics? And again, that's a tough one because, Dr. Armour, we have several presentations on ethics at School Board Association meeting. And, you know, it's a good presentation, but when you leave, you're not sure if behavior is going to be changed. And I guess I said partially it's something that people are just equipped with through the family, through the church, through schools. It becomes a part of our makeup, and if you're not an ethical person, it's really pretty hard to teach. The third question that I had concerned community involvement. How do school boards develop good community relationships? And again, those were tough questions because we can talk about the issue from the standpoint of the board, but you know, sometimes you have to get out in the community and look at where we are in order to come up with a good answer. But I think probably what I said was that the boards need to have as many public meetings as possible to let the public know what it is we're discussing and to hear from them what some of their concerns are. So those were 3 tough issues, and I don't know whether other people who were interviewed in recess 7 had anything better, but I thought those were very interesting questions, and I think all very relevant. I'd like to just do a little report. The Leading Creek Elementary School now has an inter-county governance board. We had our first meeting, and we also have a bill that hopefully Governor Tomlin is going to sign, which cleaned up one item on the previous bill, and that has to do with seniority for teachers. And I think that bill's awaiting the governor's signature. But I think that the board for that school has a wonderful opportunity. It is a governing board for that school. And I think in the meeting that we had this past few days, I have every confidence that the teachers from Troy and Allen Bridge are going to be given the fairest opportunities available for making that school work. So I think that we're moving along. I know that the legislators are very supportive of the inter-county school because they see many opportunities for inter-county and multi-county schools in the future in West Virginia. I think economics, the shifts in population are going to make this almost a necessity. And other counties are looking at this, and Mr. Bono, I see no reason why this school cannot work. Because the key is to have the teachers and the students in the classrooms. And I think people will be pleased with what we've done. Okay, any questions on it? It's been a difficult challenge because basically there was a lot of misinformation, and I went to the Capitol several times. And if we think misinformation is prevalent around locally, there's nothing to what was down there. And so I got back and I told Mr. Devada, I said, look, we better be having a public meeting over at Troy because there is just a lot of misinformation out there. And we do have some good support from our elected officials all the way up through the Speaker and a number of other folks in the Senate. So I think we've got the green light to make that school a success, and I see no reason why not. Okay, do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All right, we stand adjourned.
Will you call Cheryl? I see the 20.
I'll take it.
That's all right. I take it back. I'll call her. I'll call her.
Yeah, I have them all listed in my